said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy... Flyover State of Fear. Welcome back to Flyover State of Fear. We got a familiar face with us. TJ, it's been a minute. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Feels good to be back and get to talk movies again with you. So I'm ready to get into this.
Welcome home, baby.
Thank you for having me back.
Brian,
hello.
Hey, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see
you. Been a minute. Since whenever.
Since last week,
yeah. Hey, people don't know this could be
people don't know. Do you remember the one time? There was one time I think we did two back when we did Flyover. We did 2 in a row to stock up for a month. Mm-hmm. That was tiring.
It's a lot. It was a lot.
And that second episode, you're probably just yeah. I forget what. I think there was one time we did that. I know I've done it with Fear where I was Definitely. 2 and 2, whatever, and that was exhausting. But.
It's funny, I've listened to podcasts where people are who are professionals who do multiple shows, and they talk about it being hard, and you're kind of want to brush it off, but then you're I sometimes get exhausted doing there's a reason I barely have ever done a show that didn't come out bi-weekly, and sometimes I've scheduled an episode where I had to do like 2 or 3 in a matter of 2 weeks. I'm whoa, all right, calm down. And those people are doing research and all sorts of they have subjects. It's way
the podcast I think you're talking about too, though. It is hard, but at the same time, they're getting paid most of the time.
That's fair.
Where they're only they have a studio and they'll be we got to record 3 episodes in one day. We're here the whole day, and they just change shirts out. We've all listened to enough podcasts for that long where they
we know the score, sure.
Yeah,
for a good portion of the beginning of when we started podcasting, we were drinking during episodes. We did 2 back-to-back. You're drinking. Oh, that had to have gotten sloppy by that.
Oh, well, that was this Halloween one. That just by the end of them, just they're so long.
There's too long. Too many times.
But having said, I used to early Fear, really starting with guests that was cool. You're available. It was 2 a week, sandwich between flyovers. That I learned real quick. Oh,
and it's funny. The minute it starts to feel like a chore, you'll burn out and you'll quit. So that's how I kind of started doing the bi-weekly thing. It was when we started, I was I know myself. I'll burn out.
Yeah. But we go to we get radio jobs and be daily 5 a.m.
Hey, we have a special day.
Hey, it's Flyover State of Fear in the morning. We're talking first homing.
I want to do you take the wild man and I'll do the you get the Daryl Strawberry rookie card. I'll do that. I'll do that guy.
Wayne's World handsome Dan, or just has what's his name from Married to Children, just
woo! Just all he does is make that woo.
Yeah,
that's such a good gag. You know what? Let's do a Wayne's World 2 podcast instead, guys. Scrap the wolf thing.
Every minute of 1 minute each of Wayne's World 2.
Do an hour.
Stretch it out.
Do an hour on every minute.
1 minute every hour.
Become one of those podcasts. The worst kind.
Do for a Star Wars podcast, 1 minute each. It's what?
Yeah.
But we're here to talk some horrors. Before we begin, as typical, I'll start. TJ, is there anything you watched recently or you'd like to call out that is kind of within the genre, or something that sparked your fancy, or you know?
I did watch something recently, and this is gonna make Brian probably pretty mad. I've been wanting to watch this movie for a while, and it shows up on Shout Out Pluto. And I wasn't I didn't like it. I just thought it was kind of boring, and it has nothing to do with one of the best actors of all time. But Near Dark,
Oh, you didn't like Near Dark?
I
It was
still have
so-
yet to see Near Dark.
It's something about it. I think it may be the lead kid, and the acting is.
Oh yeah, I
is-
mean, I do. You mean you're talking about like the teen, not the actual child?
No, like the actual guy who
The guy
gets
who's the lead. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, who plays lead. I mean, Bill Paxton obviously is great, and Hendrickson showing up, but like, I don't know. It was like the hype built up over for so long, and I finally checked it out, and I was just like, all right. It also takes a while for it to really get into.
Yeah, it's not. It's like it's a moodier kind of like more like charactery kind of like it's
vampires, right?
Yeah, it's a vampire movie.
Yeah.
And they don't really
Catherine
mention
Bigelow.
vampires, you just get
Yes.
the idea of it. And I think
Before
the girl bothered me too. Like the
Jeanette
lead.
Goldstein?
Oh, Jeanette Goldstein's in it. Absolutely.
That's the she plays
Vasquez?
Olga Gold for Cameron, right?
Yeah. Vasquez. Yeah. And also the
Yeah.
stepmom in T2, we all know.
Yes.
And an
And then-
Irish lady for some reason in Titanic.
Oh,
I don't
she
know.
is Irish.
Yeah,
Definitely
well,
smothered her
Goldstein. Yeah, she's Jewish.
Land of turning on.
Yeah, no, that's been one I've wanted to catch on. So that is, I know you're saying that it's on Pluto.
It was on Pluto. I watched it probably about a week.
That's awesome because it's hard to find.
I was gonna say, that's one of those ones that has
streaming. I watched it. I think it was on Shudder for a while back. I got to see it then.
That's all I know of it. It has a weird
it's like
release.
finding the movie you watched tonight. It's like finding that movie was fucking a pain in the ass. Too much.
You know what's real quick? You know what's weird about Wolf? Speaking of hard to find, I rented it on Prime. It didn't have I never watched it with subtitles, but I was like, let me throw subtitles on just because I want to make sure I get everything. It didn't have a subtitle option.
Really?
It has to be a mess with my street, because that just seems YouTube videos that like get uploaded immediately have subtitles.
Totally off topic, but have you ever put in a really old DVD and it just starts putting subtitles on, like it just starts with subtitles?
Yeah, and then there's the second one's French.
Yeah.
And the third one's Spanish. Yeah.
I had a thing where my
we did this last week.
I had a thing for a while when Peacock, every time I would play a show, it would put on the descriptive text. So I was like hearing somebody describe the intro to like a TV show, and I was like, what the hell is happening? It felt like I was having a stroke.
Nothing drove me crazier, because I really am not a fan of the subtitles. I know a lot of it's very huge in like millennials and younger, can't watch it without subtitles. Especially with comedies or horror. Like I want to be surprised. But
and also I want to it takes me out of the immersion of a movie.
Yes.
That's always my thing. It's like it's not a barrier to read.
I'm not talking
I don't
about
have a problem with that, but I am
films.
constantly looking down at the screen and kind of taking my eyes off the action and breaking myself away from the movie all the time. Constantly,
I'm not talking about foreign films. I'm just
they're not worse or better, but I definitely feel like it's a different experience. You know.
What I was just getting at there, you said, when you turned on Peacock or whatever, drive me crazy when I would share around my streaming services, and someone clearly was on my profile on Hulu, and they go like, Abbott Elementary, why the fuck are there subtitles on? This isn't my settings.
You and somebody else just having a war turning on and off the subtitles all the time.
Use your own profile. If you borrow a streaming service.
All right, so then answer me this. It's let's settle this. Did everyone watch Godzilla -1?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it since it came out. I saw it in the theaters, so I saw it in the theater.
Now, was it dubbed or was it sub?
No.
Oh, subs. Yeah.
Subs. Okay. Oh, for foreign film, subs all the way. I'm more talking about
I just turned it on.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I always want to do subs for the performance because you feel like you get the actual performance hearing it in the natural language. But I do find it a little. I do find that it takes me out of it a little bit. All the time be reading and kind of looking down and looking away and kind of pulling you kind of never get into that like real immersive,
I think it was easier in the movie theater compared to at home.
Yeah. It's like you can kind of take it all in at once, maybe.
Yeah. It was like the one movie I remember, a good movie you're gonna forget your reading.
Yeah.
And the one that stands out to me, like Godzilla -1 was like that. And I remember Parasite being like that a lot. Like once you got over that 5 minutes, you were just very this is I'm reading, this I'm talking.
Train to Busan was the same way. You're so much immersed in the story. You're boom, boom, boom.
RRR.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, like I said, I always prefer because of the performance. Like I like to, you get more from the actors and you get the actual the way they deliver the lines and stuff. So, but I do think there is. I can get why some people maybe have a problem with it.
Yeah, what TJ just asked about, like, the Godzilla Minus One with the dub, that's a lot of people's apparently being like, I don't get it, because a lot of people are watching the dub, and apparently the acting's
Dub's
not as
very
strong.
good, yeah.
I mean, the story is incredible with it, and I watched the dub one. Now I'm like, oh, I want to go back and watch it without the dub, because I didn't think about it when I turned it on. I did it as the first option that popped on.
So I know we got to move on to other things, but that, when we did RRR, I mean, we watched it, and then at Christmas Eve that year, like, my wife's family was watching it, but Netflix put on the English dub.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I remember, like, saying, like, oh no, we got to switch over to what I think they left the English dub on because, like, 10 boomers were really, like, still into it, so I didn't want to, like, but I remember the scenes when they're like, remember he's speaking English and they don't know what he's, they don't.
Yeah, that doesn't play. That joke doesn't really play.
It doesn't. It truly, there's no translation there. He's speaking English back to her, and she's being like, speaking English, being like, I don't understand you.
Yeah.
And I was explaining that, and they were like, oh yeah, that makes more sense. I'm like, yes. Anyway, Near Dark. I gotta check that out. Brian, what do you got recently?
I hit up a couple movies on Shudder. A recent release, Stop Motion. If anybody's seen that, it's a thriller about a girl who's like a stop motion artist.
Shudder original?
I think it's a Shudder original. Yeah, absolutely. Is it a Shudder original or just a Shudder exclusive? Hard to say.
Is that a different thing?
So the movie's not in stop motion. She's a stop motion artist.
Right, but there are obviously segments that are in stop motion, and there's kind of blending of her world. As things get more cerebral and crazy, there's obviously blending. But there was some really cool, like, body horror elements involved in it and stuff. So, very cool. Last year we had Mad God. Phil Tippett put out Mad God, which is like 2/3 of an incredible movie, and then, it took him a long time to make it, and I think maybe it fell off a little in the end, and maybe it doesn't hold together as like a perfect film, but as a piece of craft, it's incredible. But this was really cool too. And then I watched Mute Witness from 1990, which I found out is getting an Arrow 4K release. I just saw that today, but it's like from 95 or 96, and it's like I think it's a Russian thriller. Like, the whole thing seems to take place in Russia. And it's, again, about movie making also, but it's like a lady is on a set. She's a makeup artist. She's mute. She can hear, but she's mute. She witnesses a murder. Actually, she witnesses the filming of a snuff film while she's, like, locked in the building. And then it's all about her trying to get away from the guys who are making the film and trying to get people to believe that it actually happened and getting the cops involved and stuff. It's really good. And I remember, like, seeing previews when I was a kid for it. I think it was like an indie, back then, foreign movies didn't make it to America very much, but it had a bunch of the, like, Sundance things at the beginning, so it had clearly been to some festivals and stuff. So that's probably how it made it to my radar as a kid.
I know this fucking this
the post. Everybody knows
the
that
poster.
With the mouth sewn shut and it says the mute.
Yeah, Alec Guinness.
Yeah, Alec Guinness has a very if you're a Red Letter Media fan like I am, you'll know what I mean by a Cameron Mitchell role, where he's always sitting, like, basically every scene that Alec Guinness is in this movie, he's in the backseat of a car and he just leans forward and talks to someone out of a window. Incredible.
That's great. I too checked out Shudder. I crossed a long time. You should watch this. It's so weird and messed up. Possession.
I watched that last year. It's a good one.
Yeah, I watched it nice Saturday morning, 8 a.m.
You love doing that.
Yeah, and
I love the early morning horror movie.
And did not know what to expect.
A Joe classic.
And it was you know what's weird? It was as disturbing as I wanted an early morning horror movie to be.
Yeah.
Like I don't
time to watch something really fucked up because it's sun's out. You feel
early,
safe.
No one's awake.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, it was such a weird fucking tale, and I truly didn't know it was, with the relationship and losing and just the general screaming of everyone, and then the sex, and then the weird fucking demon puppets, and then
And then if you watched First Omen, also you realize that there's fully a scene just like ripped out of Possession and then put into the First Omen.
Yes, for real.
Good from everybody.
First Omen's very good. I would
First
recommend
Omen was
that.
good.
We
my
talked about
big
that
complaint
last
about
week.
it. I've been a little harder on it than some people. I just don't think the like writing of the movie lived up to the filming, because she made like an incredible horror film, but it's like there's kind of some dumb stuff in the plot that doesn't really make a lot of sense and everything. But people, it's easy for people to gloss over it because the movie's so well made and looks so cool and has so many cool images and shots and like so. And I'm with them; they're not wrong. It is all that.
It's one of those ones too, like, because Brian's not wrong with like it's weak in some of the storytelling. But I think everyone's probably read it for like a studio like IP movie.
Right. That's
it's
the
one
thing.
of the
The bar was so low for the Legacy prequel that the fact that this movie is not only good but pretty excellent, actually.
Yeah. And to be fair, like the recent ones, like Prey was so fucking good.
Prey is incredible. Hellraiser was good.
Hellraiser gets too much hate. That was
people don't like that Legacy sequel, do they?
I feel like the people that don't like that movie, I probably talked about it before in this, are people who do not remember the original Hellraiser, even the 3 being like, one, the Cenobites and Pinhead are barely in it, and it's always just a fucking story about torture and pleasure, and this one was about addiction, and they're usually kind of mundane in its story to begin with.
Yeah.
That's the truth, for me at least, about the whole series of Hellraiser.
I've only ever seen the first.
Yeah, the reimagining or whatever, very enjoyable. I think it's getting a sequel.
Oh, is it?
I think, that's one of those things you see every once in a while. You're like, you never fucking know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right?
And anyway, anyone other to call?
I did rewatch Late Night with the Devil also.
You did?
It's still good.
I was gonna say, how is your? Okay, good, still good, because.
Well, I mean, I don't remember how hard I was on it when we talked about it a little bit on the show.
You weren't that hard.
Good, because I know people had some. There's some light criticisms that go along with it, and I think they're valid. But I think overall it was pretty solid.
I saw it in another one. I did a theater watch, so I was a little theater blind.
Yeah,
so I've been wondering what the at-home watch was.
I just when it turned like Scarlet Witch at the end, I kind of fell out of it.
Yeah,
see, I like the design. I like that crazy the head split open fire energy coming out of it. I like that.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
I think that's fair. I don't know. I liked it a lot. Did I tell you about the fucking? We saw a weird theater experience. How the woman sitting in front of me. It was literally the one time she was egging to me. You could not tell someone, "Hey, please be quiet," because it was clearly Tourette's.
Oh, damn, that sucks.
It was a pretty packed theater, because it was as small. It was an AMC, but it was like a small theater.
Mm.
And her Tourette was to cough or mouth blow open in the air, so it wasn't like saying, but it was clearly a tick.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and you're going, okay, and it's a little annoying, but nothing you could tell what it is. It's more gross because you're like.
You're like,
because it's literally just coughing.
It seemed like she was doing it at you.
Yeah, it was, and some words, but nothing. And you're going, okay, whatever. And then 30 minutes into Late Night with the Devil, and it swore every time it got quiet, it would happen too.
Yeah,
it wasn't during her. I'd imagine her mother or some sort of caretaker, because she was older. They were older.
Yeah.
Turns and goes, "Is this a horror movie we're seeing?" And it was you were like, what?
Name,
fuck?
Fucking name alone. Just let you know.
Oh my god! And the girl's like, yes, and they continue, but it was really, we're here. Anyway,
you got her all the way into the theater.
It wasn't that distracting. It wasn't talking and it was just a.
Yeah, I did Speaking of that, Red Letter Media did a video recently talking about the reasons theaters are dying, and they focused a little bit on the terrible theater experience, but really they had 3 or 4 reference videos of crazy shit happening, and I'm like, I go to the theater a ton. I've never had anything like that happen. I very rarely even had people be like what I would consider rude in my theater.
That video was like, they made some really valid points. I listened to it too,
yeah.
but I saw some other people's commentary be like, nah, they've been complaining about theater experiences for like a decade. That just has to be their place in fucking Michigan where they're going to theaters at this rate.
Well, the clips weren't all from stuff they had experienced. It's just shit they cobbled together from the internet too.
Oh no, none of their experiences.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but then they've obviously had some bad experiences in Wisconsin or wherever. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's just that I don't go to I go to theater at a non-rowdy time or whatever. But I've never had a problem.
I've had bad experiences here or there, but they're usually like, decided to go to see Scream Thursday night at 8.
Like, see, I would never do that.
Like
I would never go when the children are there.
Like telling a Gen Z, "Hey, please be quiet," and them going, "You motherfucker, what are you saying?"
Yeah.
How
about I stab you?
What do you mean? They actually didn't say it, but the look they gave, when you're like, "Please be quiet," and they're like, "Fuck you." I'm the youth.
The youth, they're so scary.
Oh, you old man.
Anyway, so Wolf.
Yeah, let's talk about Wolf, guys.
So
this is the latest in my never-ending series of trying to get Joe to see every 90s movie that was important to me as a child.
I might not love this movie, but I love that your quest, because it's always it never disappoints. And there's so many hidden gems of here's this pretty big budgeted thing with huge stars, typically in the 90s. Of concepts you would never think of stars doing today.
Well, and also people act like that, streaming services. Oh, people make these movies and they just disappear and they come and go. People act like that didn't happen. Plenty of movies that cost a lot of money or had big stars in them came and went. And you never heard of them again. You go through people's IMDb, it's full of movies that were, so it's not like that's a new thing. It just felt like there was more tangibility to it because less stuff came out. But overall, there was still plenty of shit to just be forgotten,
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I'm going to round up here a little bit. You're talking about the budget and the forgottenness.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is right in line with things coming out today in this sense, because adjusted for inflation, so this was a $70 million budget. I'm going to round up a little bit. No, I won't. I'll keep the exact number. $147 million.
Is what it would cost today. That's the upgrade.
That's the equivalent. Double. So it made, ironically enough, it made $130 million. So it was probably a modest hit, but you're right. It's lost this is a pretty big hit, but Arachnophobia, right? That's something no one's putting on today.
Right. Movies that are just kind of lost to time, And actually, it's that's a thing that I have always noticed, that there's just so many movies that you find that you have a strong connection to, but that nobody else has ever seen,
Yeah,
but this was in the 90s. This was my Universal monsters. I had Wolf, I had Interview with the Vampire, and I had Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
So
that was my
one of those movies.
Those were I watched those movies so many times.
One of those movies is in pop culture. The others are not.
The others are not. No.
Is this something about it too? Because again, 94. Think about it. Forrest Gump.
Huge year.
It looks older. Something about it. Something about the film.
It looks like late 80s more. I feel right? Like Bonfire with the Vanities.
Yeah, Bonfire with the Vanities. That might just because there's so much time spent at that mansion.
Yeah. That's where my brain went through.
Jack Nicholson just looks the same fucking age. He just kind of blows up and gets skinny and blows up.
Well, you know what's really outdated about it too is choosing his profession to be a book publisher.
Yeah. Well, this was the first time I remember. This was the first time I was ever introduced to the world of publishing. I was like, "Oh, that's a job!" I didn't know.
Yeah. And this isn't the first movie around this era of, let's say, in 10 years that makes it seem like Wall Street money.
Yeah.
I just watched Moneyball earlier, which is a very analytic fucking film. Obviously, amazing. But it goes from him doing the call-ins and trying to trade players, and now I'm watching Wolf, and he's like, I need all my writers from your Rolodex on here. I need your best writer, David Hyde Pierce, shout out.
Hell yeah.
I guess assistant, not his assistant, but his second.
Yeah, basically his protege, kind of.
Yeah.
that little inside kind of game that they were playing of like the baseball shit, it kind of got me into it a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's funny because this movie does have like, it's funny, the plot about the publishing and about him losing his job and James Spader trying to steal it is actually kind of interesting. It's not boring.
And when he gets wolfy and he starts getting like, more aggressive and more cutthroat, you're like, oh shit. And also, like, I don't know if they did this on purpose too, which I'm assuming they probably did. In the very beginning of the movie, is it not like, I'm like, Jack Nicholson looks awful. And then when he gets wolfy, I'm like, oh, he's a fucking stud.
Oh, that's on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because we talk about the transformation.
Yeah, we can go through it, but
I think they start with the very first shot where he's driving and he gets bitten by an animatronic wolf, and I was like, is he going to turn into an animatronic wolf, man?
And that wolf, as the kids would say, that wolf has the cuntiest eyes when it goes away.
It felt like the wolf from Neverending Story, right?
Yes.
The bitchy wolf from a Neverending Story.
Like the eyes were just like, it's also, but the first note is like, God, I don't think anyone would be like, yeah, let me get out. He could just drive around that thing.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting out to sea. It's not unless it's a person, I ain't getting out.
Yeah. He's like, oh, let me pick up even later on when he's describing he's like, I tried to move it and it bit my hand. And it's like, what do you mean you tried to move it?
Him and the doctor fucking conversations. Probably has to be the worst doctor in the fucking world.
Who does he have the conversation? I know I'm jumping around here. Who does he have the conversation with? About, I think it's Michelle Pfeiffer or the first. I think she's the first person tells. Oh no, it's the doctor.
Yeah,
it's the doctor I'm thinking of, and the doctor goes, "Oh, it could have been like a dog or something." He's like, "You think I would mistake a wolf and a dog?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I would."
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a really big dog. I don't know.
Anyway,
I never seen a wolf. What the fuck do I know?
So yeah, this.
I was gonna say, okay, we start out with Jack. We'll probably end up just calling him Jack Nicholson, but his name's Will, and he's like a weak-willed little doormat, and I'm like, that's a hard sell. You cast Jack Nicholson. I know you cast him because at the end you want him to be Wolfman, but then you have to make him kind of a wuss at the beginning, and it's hard to be like, oh, you wouldn't just walk all over Jack Nicholson like that.
This is another movie. I think we talked about this last week, where Tom Hanks would have been suited for the lead. Talking about just starting out like meek, especially young Tom Hanks, like thin, honestly, like Forrest Gump Tom Hanks.
James Spader's so well cast in this.
He
could have been, but he could have also been But I think you need an older guy because you need him to be like at the end of his rope and kind of become revitalized. That's the story here. But it is just a kind of a hard sell, especially he was so formidable at this, just coming off being the Joker, and he's having his real Jack Nicholson Renaissance era at this point.
Well, he's the reason why. So I did a little research on the movie. He's the reason why this got made. This is a passion project for him.
That's awesome. That's even cooler. He was I want to be Wolfman.
Yeah.
Basically, to sum up, a little bit of reading was, when he came on, he had say. So. He had say of who the director was. It's a famous Mike Nichols, The Graduate.
Yeah.
I think that's where, weirdly enough, the movie's biggest flaw is in editing and directing. But, he had say in a lot of these things. He didn't say who's going to star across him, who's going to do this. He was very much not just like a.
Well, with him attached, it was probably easy. You know what I mean? You go to somebody, you're like, we're making a Jack Nicholson movie, and they're going to be like, yeah, hell yeah, sign me up.
1994, Jack's back.
Yeah.
What's Michelle Pfeiffer coming off of Batman Returns? I don't know.
Yeah, she just Batman Returns was in '92. This is '94, so
she's still Michelle Pfeiffer.
She's got that leather jacket.
God damn.
Yeah, we can we can jump fast forward. So basically, there's a new boss. His boss wants to give him a crappy job and kind of retire him off.
Not just any boss.
Europe.
Christopher Plummer.
Right. Again, Christopher Plummer. Every role in this movie is cast with a heavy hitter.
That's the youngest I've ever seen Christopher Plummer.
And he's still.
What, you never seen Sound of Music? But yeah, Christopher Plummer basically like Jack Nicholson says himself, he gives him the opportunity between no job and a job no one would want, you know. And you find out that James Spader is like, along with David Hyde Pierce, one of Jack Nicholson's like proteges, but he's classic James Spader character. He's a huge piece of shit, and he's a slime ball, and he's gone behind his back and basically stolen his job with Christopher Plummer.
But everyone is like, we'll leave if you you're the man. Will right.
Everybody rallies behind Will. Everybody wants to rally behind Will, but it's made a point that Will's not going to fight. He's just gonna he's gonna take the shitty job or whatever, and
he's been with his.
He wants the security and whatever, and the stability or whatever.
He's been with his wife for a while.
Because he's a broken man. We're seeing a man who's worn down by life.
But later on, when he does say, not that much later, he's like, why would they believe me? I'm just Will, who's, I've never heard anyone. I'm this and that, blah, blah, blah. I still don't believe those words coming out of Jack Nicholson's mouth.
Right.
I'm the least confrontational guy ever. I'm like, you talk like this.
Yeah, everything you say is intimidating.
Yeah, every look he gives is a snarl, essentially.
But yes, that basically you teed up the plot though, and while this is going on, he's experiencing just these little tiny wolf-isms. He could.
Well, one other thing we need to hit too is that Michelle Pfeiffer is Christopher Plummer's daughter.
Yes.
That's how they meet. He is at the party where he gets the bad news or whatever.
His daughter, who we're meant to believe is extremely rebellious, but also very I'm going to live on the property and just do everything.
Well, I had a theory. I'd never thought about this before, but I had a theory watching it this time that I think her part might have been originally written for somebody a little bit younger. Everything about her role is the rebelliousness, the kind of wild child vibe that she gives off, the kind of stuff she's doing to spite daddy, plus even the dialogue she has with Jack Nicholson where she's like, oh, you old man stuff or whatever. It's there's not enough of a gap in your ages for you guys to really it just doesn't feel natural.
I think I don't know, Michelle Pfeiffer is one of the hottest women to ever be on screen.
Yeah.
And Jack Nicholson is just forever charming and attractive.
He's got the riz, as the kids say.
Even if probably the age gap's there, you don't notice it or care about it because she doesn't look like a child. She looks like a 4-year-old.
Right.
30s,
that's why
40s.
I just feel like the character was written younger, and then they probably had the opportunity to cast Michelle Pfeiffer, and hell yeah, we'll take Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, the scene,
and they didn't bother to rewrite it at all.
The scene on the front lawn, and he's like, "Well, Daddy won't approve of this and this and that." I'm like, that doesn't really fly when she's 38.
It makes a lot of sense with what Brian's saying, because didn't you say, Joe, that Nicholson got final call on the opposite?
I think for the, if I'm mixing something up here or there, I know he was I know he got final call on the director, so I imagine he's giving.
Well, he would have been he'd have had a lot of power going into this one. I said, he was at his height of his powers right now too.
Joker, Catwoman.
Yeah, so that's what that's what got me. Yeah. That's what got 12-year-old me or whatever.
You mean the Joker and the Catwoman are in a movie together?
I mean, it kind of worked on me again with the Prestige too. I was like, what? Wolverine and Batman? I liked he's having Joe started to talk about the little werewolf-isms, right? I like the kind of, it felt very, I know it's kind of a trope of vampire and werewolf movies, but it felt a lot like a superhero origin where he's getting his powers, and he's hearing things across the room, and he smells booze on the guy's breath and whatever, that whole bit.
Tell people you had coffee with your tequila. You didn't have coffee. It kind of reminded me of the Liar Liar scene. He's walking through the hallway trying not to lie to people, but he just keeps fucking spitting.
Yeah, he just can't help himself. Yeah, I like that, but I also was okay, if you've got hair growing out of a wound, that's probably a red flag. You should probably do. He's got the bite mark on his hand. He takes the wrapping off. There's active hair growing out of it.
Just clip it down.
Yeah, just trim it back.
But
honestly, when you're old, when you get old, hair just grows out of things, and you're just oh well, I guess that's hair now. Hair's there now.
Well, actually, the first sign before any of this is that he's horny.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He gets horned for his wife.
He like they're like I think it's breakfast. It seems like we're at dinner, and then he just like stops her and he fucks her, and he has his pep in his
the way
step.
he delivers those lines, where he's like, "I haven't eaten, I
Yeah.
haven't drunk." I was like, "Oh, it's so." I was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm being violated."
I believe he says the words, "I don't have to use my hands."
Ugh.
Yeah, he like pulls her robe off with his teeth and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's with the robe and the other things. That's where I said I think that some of this movie's faults are in like, even though it's a very famous director and like I'm sure the editors, whatever, the usage of slow-mo in certain times are very uncalled for.
I'm like, it looks so sick. I'm like, okay, I'm not want to jump forward a little.
But I know Mike Nichols said he wanted to do this because Jack was like, yeah, do this movie for me, whatever.
Everybody ready to break out some Jack Nicholson impressions?
Yeah. I'm sure if I could try to get it.
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, yeah.
Wait till they get a load of me.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? But it's so funny to watch this while reading the quote of, I want to show studios that could do bigger pictures, more like bigger budget action-y pictures, and it's like, well, choosing to do all of your action sequence in slow motion is a choice.
Yeah. And it gets bad too because shout out Rick Baker, I'm assuming he did a lot of makeup and everything too.
Yes.
But when he does his first running where he tackles the deer and everything like that, but they do the slow motion for a good 5 minutes, and they don't do the thing that you should do is when it is his stunt double and it is incredibly fucking obvious, they don't they stay on the face. They don't turn away.
They just let that ride. They're just like, it's fine. I think they thought that the makeup would do a lot of the work and kind of
it's such light werewolf makeup.
Well, I was going to talk about that even leading up to we'll get into it when we get to the final
Big Wolf on Campus
at the end. I do like the first initial night out as the werewolf as a tribute to kind of the Lon Chaney 30s werewolf.
There's fun.
The way he's running and the mist and the kind of there's a lot of very it feels very homage,
No, there's such
very
fun
deliberate,
stuff
especially that scene.
Yeah, I there's such fun stuff with that. No, that's a takeaway from it. But yeah, so that would be his first time because then so he's finally got this. So that tells us, right, audience, the passion's been gone from his wife because she's also like, once a year, they're like, whatever.
But she's all like, what got into you? And who? And then he sleeps like a whole day after he bangs her. He sleeps for 24 hours and shit. He's like,
and that's really, I think,
that's real Spider-Man again, real Spider-Man stuff.
But once he wakes up from that sleep, that's when he's like, I hear you, I smell you, blah, 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 blah. But then
that smell also ensnares his wife, that new sense of smell.
Then he goes and he smells, who else but James Spader.
Because it wasn't enough to steal his job, he had to bang his old lady too.
They set that up so well too, because when he walks in the office after hearing everybody, he's like, was James Spader's character's name in here? And he's like, well, he wasn't just here, he was here like an hour ago, so he already has a trail.
Yeah, he has exactly, he's got that scent on lock. Yeah. I love when he goes to confront James Spader though, because I like when it rings the bell and he's waiting, and the way he paces back and forth is like, it's so good. It's that's why you hire Jack Nicholson to play the Wolfman right there. Like that moment is
Demon Wolf.
Yeah.
It's a Demon Wolf.
We're gonna get to that character. Don't you worry.
That was, man. There's like such silly little things in this movie.
That wasn't a Johnny Five guy, was it?
No.
That was an actual
Indian actor. Thank goodness.
Yeah, that wasn't Fisher Stevens.
Fisher Stevens. No brown face in this movie.
In hindsight, I now feel bad for Fisher Stevens and just hear him talk about being like, I couldn't get a job to save my life, and then they want to give me a movie to lead, so why would I say no? And I'm like, yeah, sure, man.
Oh no, I get it, man.
So yeah, we're there. He bites James Spader, though, right? I don't think we missed him.
Right, when James Spader tries to stop him from going in, and he kind of on his hand, and
and it's not even. That's one thing I did like in the movie. It's restraint. You don't it's not like a
Just keep going.
It's not. It just keeps going. It doesn't make it
Well,
seem
and
like
we
James
see
Spader
James Spader quite a bit, but they don't fully reveal that he's turning until like near the very end, you know.
Yeah.
And that, and all he really does is just fucking look at his wife and then leaves, which is such a great move.
Oh yeah, just the you're caught.
Yeah.
Boom. Then he goes back. He goes back to Michelle Pfeiffer's place, or he goes to meet with Christopher Plummer and has like an attack at Michelle Pfeiffer's.
He meets with, well, he kind of meets with Christopher Plummer, and there's a few scenes. This is kind of where like some of this movie was a little boring for me in just dealing with their daily drama.
Yeah, there's a little bit of, like I said, I don't hate that plot, but there are some. It does like,
well,
you could have trimmed it up a little bit.
This is where like I feel like there's multiple scenes where it's just him going and like trying to strong arm his job back, but without doing it, and like that's kind of one of those. Basically, the next big point of the scene is he goes to that house to be like, I met a woman who I had some chemistry with. It's Michelle Pfeiffer.
Well, and he's decided now, because of James Spader banging his wife, he's not gonna. He's like, he goes to basically tell Christopher Plummer, I am gonna fight for my job. I'm not just gonna take your shitty assignment or whatever. And he basically puts him on notice that he's gonna pull this stunt where he like gets all these writers who are loyal to him to like start a new publishing house that doesn't exist.
That was a good
doesn't
scene.
Matter. Yeah, it's a strong arm tactic.
That was a good scene with the Niles, right? Like he comes to the office and he's like, "Call everyone, do this, blah blah blah." And
you have the lady who comes in, who's the like writer, who's like, "I'll knock off these last books on my contract." Who's like one of their big names to kind of give you an idea of what he's talking about. You know,
it's also so funny that he's doing that in the place he works, stealing very blatantly, instead of someone just coming and be like, yeah, man, we gave you a chance, but you're actually fucking fired now. It doesn't
they probably wouldn't let him get away with that. But it's that white man in power thing where he's like, because it's all respectability politics with that, you know what I mean? So it's like, he's breaking decorum, but they won't break decorum to stop him, kind of thing, you know?
Like, Niles is like, oh, okay, sure.
Because it's that, you got moxie, kid. They just respect them. They respect the game, you know?
What's his name? David R. Pearson. He's like, you want me to tell him that, but it's not happening? He's like, no, it's not real yet. He's like, you're a god, and just like walks out the door. I love it.
But when I wanted to talk about when he like goes to Christopher Plummer, but then he has like some kind of little attack, and Michelle Pfeiffer finds him, and they talk, and there's a great little the back and forth between them is so good because they do a couple little subversions here that I thought was funny. Like, she does the thing where he's like, you know, she's like, oh, you're trying to hit on me. And he says, don't flatter yourself. But I'm like, what do you mean don't flatter? She's right to think dudes want to bang her. She's Michelle Pfeiffer. Like, but then I like the thing where he does the whole, like, you know, he's going to dress her down and pick her apart. And like, you know, and then she immediately just shuts that down. She's like, they subvert that really quickly where she's like, wrong. Like, you're not insightful. You're just another old misogynist. Like,
all my dad's friends have hit on me like that. They bang later, and I have a question about the very, very end, but I'll hold that. Speaking of the banging later, yeah. So that, like you said, yeah, we already kind of talked about it a bit. Like they have that. He goes back to get her in this flirty stance. She falls off the horse, but then she's like, no, Dad, he's going to have with me. And he's like, I like peanut butter and jelly, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they're having their little meet cute.
And, okay.
And it's that night, because he has this little attack, and she kind of puts him to bed, and it's that night that he has his first change.
That's when he runs out the first time.
When he runs out, he jumps through the mist and kills the deer.
And that was the only time I rewound back, because I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something, because it was like he does that and he wakes up, and that's when he goes to the doctor.
Yeah, he wakes up and he's like covered in blood, and he like leaves the property and goes to the doctor. Yeah,
and in water like he's hungover, which I was like, okay.
And then he talks to her like he calls, she hangs up, and that's I rewound it a little bit to be like, did I miss something? And she's just like, no man leaves me in the middle of the night like that. Like fuck you. And he's like, no, listen.
I had a sleepwalking.
I was in a fugue state.
He was like, I was in a fugue state, and I hit my head, and I had to go to the hospital. What, did you want to take care of me again?
Yeah,
like, yeah,
you know, because he had like a fever, kind of. Although, no, I think one of my notes here is, it's common of this time. It's just movie, but just she's so dismissive of illness. Like, their meet cute is literally, he falls down and
he
whatever.
looks like he's having chest pains.
Yeah, and she goes, "Here's a glass of scotch."
She just chugs it down. It's like,
she's like, how about you stop being such a pussy?
Yeah, like,
numb yourself with this.
Like, and then like later on, same thing when she goes back and she's like, "It's okay," and it's clearly the nighttime, right? Like, so that's what's she treats him a little better, so it stays subdued, because we learn later on that the wolf could stay subdued if they're at their I think the word wasn't apex, but it was something like, if the person is content, you could keep the wolf subdued from transforming at night. That's why he didn't. The next time they got together, he didn't transform.
They're trying to make you believe.
Yeah.
It's pretty much after this that he gets. I forget who gives him who connects him with the mystic guy.
Well, he does get like the reference from the books, and I thought the mystic guy was from one of those books.
He was the author of a book someone gave. They're like, "Oh, it's David Hyde Pierce." Is like, "Hey, I found this guy or whatever. He's ancient but not dead or whatever."
Yeah.
It's like they knew they couldn't do the quote unquote gypsy. You know what I mean? There's a classic in the they're clearly doing a version of
he talks about
classic werewolf story, so they wanted to have that character in that interaction, but they knew they couldn't just have him go to like a cart out in the woods,
Yeah, but he talks about the doctor, we'll call him, the academic doctor talks about seeing a shaman. He's like, "Well, I can't tell you anything. You have to see a shaman."
I love that part about it, because he was like, "There's different rulers, like not rules, but I forget the word he uses." But he's like, "I don't know." He's just like, "I have an amulet, go and then bite me."
Yeah, there's right. Yeah, he's like, "There's potions. I don't know. There's rites. I don't know the rites." I like that.
The way I cackled when he's like, "But I have this amulet."
This is the most powerful amulet in the world.
And he's like, "If it works, it's gonna be pretty cool."
Yeah. Well, you get the impression it's one of those things that he probably just like, it was like an old, like an antique that had this story behind it that he probably just had because he thought it was cool and liked the story. But now that there's an actual guy claiming to be a werewolf, he's like, "Well, let's fuck it, try this."
Yeah, this is probably the first guy that's been like.
But one thing why not bite the old man? Just bite him. What do you care?
Well, so this might be like trash, like modern movie superhero brain of mine.
Yeah.
This would have been so ridiculous, but the movie was already there.
Talking about him becoming the villain instead of James
No. I thought at the end of the movie when he's fighting James Spader, if all of a sudden, like, it's like he did bite him and he's here.
And the old man shows up.
Yeah. And
you know what? Actually, that's rad.
And the old man like gets to fulfill like part of like his prophecy.
Yeah, that's
being like, I've been.
They would have did the other thing too, where like he would have joined in, and somehow James Spader gives him like that final blow.
Oh yeah, he would have died in that scuffle.
Yeah,
like,
in that battle, yeah.
He would have he wasn't saving the day to live, and then it's like Jack Nicholson.
Like maybe he runs in and just like gives Jack Nicholson enough time to recover, gets killed, and then Jack Nicholson takes James. You know what I mean? It would be like
because if it was a happy ending, it would be the three of them just living their lives in one of these little mansions,
running off into the woods together, becoming animatronic wolves.
But so that
I don't hate it, Joe. I don't hate it.
It crossed my mind at the ending battle.
I'm just of the opinion, like, what does it hurt? Bite him.
Because he's a man with moral fiber. No, that's what we're supposed to be. That's what the movie keeps telling us. Like, the man's just so by the book and this and that.
But the mystic guy, the doctor, tells him that like you have to have the spirit of the wolf in you. So to me, that means he's not. He's a wild guy. He's got the wildness in him already.
But being a wild guy doesn't mean you're a bad guy, and they make that very clear in the movie because it's like remember he looks at.
Point this guy makes about not needing to get bit. If you can have the spirit of the wolf and turn into it without ever being bit, and that's important. It's important that he mentions that.
And I think that's what like James Spader doesn't have, right?
So they make a point. There's dialogue later between him and Michelle Pfeiffer or something. It's one of those things like, why do bad things happen to good people? And she's like, oh, bad things always happen to good people or something. I think it's with the conversation with her. And that's the same thing as like the spirit. He's like, she's like, just because this happened to you doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
Yeah. Well, and I like that idea too, that like James Spader doesn't have that spirit, which is why he's like evil with it. It turns him, he goes too crazy, like, because he doesn't have that kind of honorable spirit.
Yeah, the movie really wants to show you, right? Like, oh, the Wolfman doesn't need to be the demon wolf. Doesn't need to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, it took like an hour and 20 minutes from the HOWL, though. It got me upset.
There's a lot of fat on this movie.
Yeah. Well, again, just the whole publishing plot is a lot of fat.
So
you could trim so much of that out.
I've been kind of trying to say is like the other movie, which is a very different movie. It's like weird. No one else is in Vampire Kiss. Nick Cage's guy is a fucking publishing guy, and they try to make him seem like his character acts like he's a Wall Street guy.
Yeah. What is the deal with that?
And that's like 87, 88, but it should. Well, this was supposed to be a lawyer, and Wolf, he was supposed to be a lawyer. That is, and then I think it was, whatever in the process. They're like, that's a little more interesting if he's a publishing guy because.
Is it?
Everyone's always lawyers or some shit, right?
I mean, it's different. Yeah, it's true.
It's like James Caan and Elf if he was a fucking wolf at some point.
Same thing. James Caan and Elf fucking is a publishing, and he's like this big,
I guess it's just not so much anymore, but I guess it just was a big, business that, dealt with a lot of money and, best-selling books make a lot of money and become movies. And it's a thing that a lot of people didn't know much about, so it was easy to convince people that it's something rich guys could do. You know what I mean? Like your average Joe like me was just like, okay, I guess this is real. I guess this is
I could sign Michael Crichton to a deal or Stephen fucking King. Rich as
That's
shit.
It's like an ad copywriter. Yeah, just bringing in the bucks,
raking it in.
But yeah, so. Where are we in the plot, Brian?
Oh, well, he's about to do his second night out. This is the one where we get our David Schwimmer cameo.
This is.
He goes to the zoo. He takes a nice trip to the zoo.
He's gonna go hunting. I think it's in
New York, right?
Easy hunting.
Mm-hmm. What'd you say?
He's in New York.
He's in New York. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Central Park Zoo. I don't remember them ever saying. I know they say something about when he gets bitten like New England or something.
Yeah, he's in Vermont. He's driving back from Vermont or something like that.
And they're like, that's why everyone's like a wolf in New England. Yeah. No offense, because you all have the fucking geographical knowledge of where animals are. Everyone acts as if it's like common knowledge.
Hey, guess what? If there's woods, there could be a wolf there. Okay.
But yeah, the second one, zoo Schwimmer. My handcuffs.
Amazing Schwimmer cameo. We see, he does his first big jump. That is another. You were talking about the action in this movie. The action in this movie is primarily big jumps, a lot of the big jumps look really cool. I'm not gonna lie.
That was the best jump.
They do some ones in the barn sequence that really, in my mind, is the way I think about. Like, if I had super jumping powers, that's the way I would want to jump. Arms back, real chest out. You know what I mean? Like,
that's the best jump. That's the best jump. When he's getting away from the handcuffs onto that ledge. Best jump of
the ledges. Yeah. I like some of the ones in the barn fight, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
I was waiting for them to do I was waiting for them to do the kill somebody. And the way they did it kind of makes sense, obviously, too, because he's getting fucking robbed.
Well, yeah, it's a movie that takes place. It's a movie made in the 90s, so everybody's terrified of ethnic teens. So of course he gets accosted by some ethnic teens.
Well, this shares the same Central Park DNA as Home Alone 2.
Oh yeah.
So Pigeon Lady was just out of the eye shot,
just out of sight. Yeah. Well, the pigeons got freaked out because the wolf. They flew away.
She's like, my buds, dear, my buds.
I like the back and forth with him and the robbers, where he's like, let's borrow some money from you. All three of you? I got $1,000 in my wallet.
How much you want? That was a great.
Yeah, he's just doing Jack Nicholson shit.
That's what I want to see in That's what you want to see in my Jack Nicholson roles, especially
then it's like, I just want you to be Jack Nicholson at some points. When you watch The Departed, it's like, I'm watching, I just want you to be the Jack Nicholson.
Just do the Jack Nicholson.
Which is an Eastwick. I want you to be, let's be real, his Joker is just being Jack Nicholson.
Absolutely it is.
Jack Torrance this up a little bit for us, buddy.
As another publisher or a writer, as good as it gets, no, he's a record producer in that movie.
Okay.
As good as, she's a writer because it's Nora Ephron's story.
Okay, yeah.
One thing I did want to say before we breeze
something's
past
got to give, by the way, not as good as it gets. Sorry, Mo.
Before we breeze past the scene and the David Schwimmer of it all, I did want to say that this movie came out in June of '94, and September of the same year is when Friends airs. So, like, this dude was right on the cusp. He was so close to breaking out, he had no idea.
And then he got Madagascar. It's awesome.
You know who's also in this movie? I don't think any of us noticed.
Jenkins?
Well, yes. He would have been in Flirting with Disaster. That's the only movie I could pin with that. And that's like 96 maybe, but no. Yeah. In the Wikipedia, Allison Janney is party goer, party guest 2.
She's at the party at the very beginning, right? The Christopher Plummer
I didn't
party.
notice it, but
I remember because, like, obviously Richard Jenkins has a big part as a detective, but like I'm just like, Allison Janney, Richard Jenkins, like all these fucking little. There's someone else. It's in it. It'll come to me, but it's like one of those.
Well, is it now? Are you familiar? How familiar are you with the Halloween 6, TJ?
He's the guy who plays the lawyer, the dad.
It's the dad, yeah, the dad from Halloween 6.
That's the one that got me.
That actor's name is Bradford English, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, because I'm watching. He's like, I don't accept that deal.
It's like, why can I picture that dude slapping a woman? What is it?
Getting fucking thrown up in the electrical box in the basement.
Yeah.
So good, yes, man. This movie has so many fucking people.
Yeah, like I said, they just cast the shit out of it. Like, movie in the '90s, they just have so many great casts.
What was the budget, Joe? You said 70?
Yeah.
40 million or 40 something? 45?
70 million.
No, 70. At the time, it was 70.
At the time,
which is high. It seems high for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rick Baker. So, like, we're talking about Rick Baker.
Probably at the time, you're probably looking at 10 for Jack, 5 for Michelle Pfeiffer, right there at least, right?
Because there's
maybe
so much
3 for James Spader. Like, maybe 3 for James Spader. Rick Baker. There was a good. This movie actually had some fun, like actual fun facts in it.
Okay.
The one was like we're talking about Jack Nicholson. I think that's how he is in real life, where it seems like quippy.
Yeah, I believe.
Apparently, he said it made the movie kind of hard to do prosthetics for because he was allergic to spirit gum. So it took longer and things didn't work, that well with.
They had to like find different ways.
Yeah, and Rick Baker did, and he, was very careful. But he said one time and Rick Baker apparently didn't believe him. He's like, I'll respect it, but I don't believe that you're allergic because I'm Rick Baker, I've been doing this forever, and no one's allergic to this stuff. Well, he accidentally switched the bottles one day and put it on, and he was like, Jack Nicholson's face was like came in the next day and it was all red and just
hives or whatever. Yeah,
and almost quote for quote of what the little fun fact said was, Jack Nicholson came in and go, Rick, my boy, you switched the bottles, didn't you? But you got one more shot. It was like something like that. I'm like that. I read that.
I'll give you one more chance.
I'm also like I
of course call him Rick, my boy.
The final design, because it obviously grows over time. But I'm like, he looks like Quint from Joe Osterman. And then all I think about too is when they just do the mutton chops and he has like just the yellow eyes. I don't know if anyone's ever seen Mom and Dad Save the World where he's like goatee or mutton chops.
No,
I was just doing that thing the whole time.
I was going to
say, I think about the whole fucking time.
Oh, CJ was insane. And this show you and I have watched. This is much worse. What I'm gonna say, it's the Big Wolf on Campus design.
Oh. I fucking love that shit.
Yeah, but that show, the Fox Family, it's the Buffy knockoff.
Yeah.
They watch the pilot. They try to do a bunch of werewolf prosthetic, and then it becomes this is too much. Contacts, mud chops, and some fangs.
Yeah.
Well, they want him to still look like a hot teen. They can't cover his face up too much.
Jack Nicholson does look hot as a wolf.
Yeah. Well, he does. I was going to ask this because he does the he's looking at himself in the mirror and he does I'm not a hair club for men. I'm not just a client.
Yeah, that was funny.
I wondered if Joe even remembered that reference. Is that too old of a reference for you, Joe? The hair club for men thing?
It should be, but I know the reference. It made me laugh.
Do you only know the reference, or did you ever see the actual commercials?
No, I know it through like I love the 80s or 90s. Like I saw the commercial. Like I've never seen it.
You didn't see them when they were airing. That would be too old.
No, that would be too old.
But still pop culture relevant enough to you that you know of it.
For me, I think if you ask someone else who's 32, they go, I don't know what you're talking about. But I mean, I like movies like this, little moments like that. Like that's fun. That's stuff I'm like, that's not fat. That is the actors having fun.
This guy's on a throwaway they just kept in, which is great.
Yeah.
Let's see. He goes and he finishes up his New York contract with Christopher Plummer. He wins.
He's all fucking.
I love how fucking petty he is. He like wants to be the one to tell James Spader, and he goes and pisses on his shoes and shit. So good.
Love it.
That's also the best.
The marking my territory bit is so fun, so iconic.
The best delivery in that scene is he does it. James Spader gets a bunch of towels and he starts wiping his shoes, and I just walk in and it's like he's just swayed, and Jack Nicholson just goes asparagus, just one fucking line at him, and that's it. And I'm just like, I hope I'm not the only one who fucking caught that.
I didn't catch that.
I don't know if I did. That's really funny. Asparagus.
It's like that's Jack. Give me that every
time. And then he finds classic Jack moments. And then he finds the mugger's fingers.
I love that turn because he's really feeling himself.
He's vigorous.
And then he pulls the fingers out and he's like, and they're all jiggly like real fingers would be, and they're all like, he like immediately flips out. That's good stuff. And then he's already like, so he's on the back foot because of that, and he's on the way back to his hotel, and his wife is there and like confronts him in the hotel lobby. And is trying to, I'm sorry. They have a great moment here, which I assume had to be written by a divorced guy as a thing that he wishes he would have said. But she's like, he meant nothing to me. And he's like, you think that makes it better that you betrayed me over and over with someone who means nothing? And I was like, that's a good line, but it feels like something a divorced guy wrote because he wishes he would have said it.
Oh shit! I should have said that.
Yeah, he a real jerk store, George Costanza, the jerk store energy. Damn, I wish I would have said that.
Michelle Pfeiffer sitting in the lobby watching the whole thing.
Speaking of the affair, sorry, yeah, you're right. Michelle Pfeiffer
there, and that's important because the wife's going to turn up dead, and we need Michelle Pfeiffer to think that maybe they were fighting and kind of maybe suspect Jack a little bit.
Well, Michelle Pfeiffer is Laura, the character's name. It's such a funny character because they don't know they know each other for what, maybe 2 days,
couple days, yeah.
And she is instantly ride or die with him. She's like, werewolf, great, I'll take care of you.
Well, she's got she mentions it earlier, but she's got kind of a house mother thing. You get the impression she's like taking care of a lot of junkies. She makes a reference to like having like helped people who are like, so she's got this kind of like nurse vibes I think she's cultivating.
Sure, but old rich man going, I'm turning a werewolf.
There's not another digression. We're gonna all do them all the time. I used to love to listen to the Mr. Show commentaries, the DVD commentaries of Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, obviously. David Cross talks about the one time he had some friend, and then he's like driving guy home from the party, and he starts like in the car, like, oh, it's happening. Oh, Crossy, I'm turning into a werewolf. And like grabbing him, and he says the dude was like huge, like 300 pounds. He's like rocking the car. Oh, he's grabbing and Crossy, I'm turning. And then he like pulled him to dude's house. He's like, all right, see ya. Got out of the car. And I always kind of wanted to I've never been like bold enough to pull that on a friend of mine, but like could be really funny.
That would be.
Just start tearing your clothes. Oh my god!
You're gonna pull over?
My skin's burning. Funny stuff. It's very amusing to me. Just the idea of picturing him just be like little David Cross, like trying to drive his car while this dude like flips out. I don't know, funny stuff.
But speaking of flipping out, Jack Nicholson goes back and he gets like after his wife, he then goes back with Laura.
Well, his wife leaves. He goes into the room. Laura comes up to the room behind
Yes.
him, and she doesn't tell him that she saw what happened. But
they have sex.
Well, she comes in and he is handcuffing himself to the radiator. Which is, I think, a fun subversion of the, like, a lot of times werewolf movies will have, like, the chair they strap themselves into because they know they're going to turn and they're trying to get away. And also, handcuffing yourself to a radiator has sex connotations, so. But anyway.
This guy didn't make Basic Instinct.
And I love, too, the thing of, like, he doesn't know where he got the handcuffs. I love that little note, too, that he's, like, has these handcuffs he doesn't know.
That is it's a good play on. I still got the handcuffs.
Yeah. But yes, then they have sex, which again, like, it feels like the Laura character was written younger because her judgment should be better if she was an older woman.
This is her like I said, his knight is like tempering now. It's like he's able to like
because he's got the medallion, so he's wearing the medallion.
Mm-hmm. It's working.
So it is holding the wolf at bay to some extent.
And but then the next morning the cops are Richard Jenkins
always ever playing a cop in this area.
Always. I think he's a cop and flirting with disaster too. He is a cop. And he's like, yeah, no, we found this at the crime scene, this and this, and you're blah blah blah, but actually your wife's dead.
Yeah.
He's already suspicious because he's like, she could stay. That's my fiance, Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
He's like,
like,
I know your wife's dead.
Your wife's dead. And she vouches for him. She's like, he was here with me all night, but we know that he did go out. We see he does, after the Catwoman sex, he does go out werewolfing. They don't show him having a bit, like, they just show him, like, out. He does the howl, I think, is that is right there. Does the howl. So we just know that he went out. We don't see what he does. It's like we don't see him attack the muggers or anything again or any other stuff or go to the zoo. All we know is that he did go out as a werewolf that night. Yeah. But she vouches for him with the cops.
And they make sure they let him know that she was murdered and her throat was fucking ripped out. So you obviously assume.
Right, exactly. We're getting the vibe, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll come down and answer some questions. But instead, she's like, fuck that, and she's gonna take him to her estate. Well, her dad's estate.
It's like the mud on his boots and shit like that.
Right, but it's in that, like, in the midst of taking him out there, she actually does start to get suspicious of him. So she drops him off, and she's like, I'm gonna go back in and give the cops a statement. They won't leave us alone if we don't. We don't want them, like, whatever. So she bails out. He locks himself in the barn, or she locks him in the barn. Either way, she goes to give her statement, and this is where she runs into James Spader. Now, like I said, we haven't seen James Spader since he got his shoes pissed on, right? That was the last time we saw him.
Yeah, I believe
there was the moment between him and Christopher Plummer where he, like, gets snaky again when they realize because they.
Oh, you're right. He tries to.
Oh yeah, he's kind of like, Will would never do that, but if he did, fuck him, and I'll take his job again or whatever. Yeah.
He's like, he keeps going, I love him so much, but there's a clause, right? And he's like, he has first say of who gets to be his predecessor through the contract.
Yeah. But that contract would be null if he were, say, convicted of a crime. Like, he's like, he's building up to something here.
And I do like Christopher Plummer also there is like. Fucking asshole, like
even Christopher Plummer, who's like, I appreciated your whatever your go-getterness earlier, but now you're just coming off like a real scumbag.
Especially, I think so. This is where I'm not remembering characters' names. I think David Hyde Pierce would be his predecessor, who he'd be like.
Right, that's who he handpicked. Like, he handpicks David Hyde Pierce.
Yeah. So, but. Yeah, so that's when we see James Spader, but now we have, and the next time we see him after everything we just talked about, he got the eyes.
Well, right, like, as soon as you see him at the police station, immediately like, there's no question. He's got the mutton chops going. He's got the pointed ears barely hidden by his, like, floppy hair,
like, shadow.
The eye, but the eye, he's got the crazy eyes. And he's in full James Spader creep mode. He's like Sex, Lies, and Videotape James Spader now, where he's like sniffing and chuffing at her and shit.
And he has his encounter with Michelle Pfeiffer. And she's like, oh, she's already like, oh fuck, she sees it,
and like immediately now she's off Will. She knows what's up. She's like, it was this motherfucker. He's crazy as hell.
She's. Am I jumping ahead? She's put him in the stables.
He's already like at this time while she's doing he's in the stable. He's like kind of in the midst of fighting, turning. He's still wearing the medallion. He's like, he's in pain. You know,
he just tells all the staff, ignore the noise. The animals.
He just tells everybody to stay away. She tells the beardy guy from the Lost World to stay away from them.
There's another one of those fucking character actors where you just
pops up and shit. Yeah,
he says the one line is like, "The horses are going crazy, miss." All right, she's like, "Yeah, it's like all right."
Yeah, he's the security guard that doesn't get run over.
No, he gets ripped.
Yeah, he gets ripped.
And but yeah, so Spader just fucking info dumps he makes up the whole lie. He's like, well, he did this and he was lying. And that's actually the one I love. The scene of the Richard Jenkins cop. It was the most realistic. He's like, we got it. Don't worry about it. Like,
yeah, no more investigating needed. One dude, we got his buddy's gonna finger him. Well, that's it. Case closed.
Because they're like, she ran out. She's not here anymore.
Yeah, because she's done. Like, he goes in. James Spader goes in, and immediately she bails. Like, she doesn't give a statement that they're both there. She lets James Spader go first, and when he goes in, she takes off. So she's on her way back. James Spader follows her back. And now we're about to have our big final showdown.
Slow-mo.
This is where we can talk a little bit about the makeup effects, which I think are really good. I think the final forms are really good. And I actually like that they don't... So, you know, a lot of movies live and die by their transformation sequences of werewolf movies. I kind of like that they don't do a big showy transformation. It's like just every time they cut back, they're a little bit more, a little bit
trying to go through
all these like subtle little changes over the course of. And there's a few shots where like you see like an extended jaw with like some big sharp teeth, but they're all cut really quick. There's not like a ton of prosthetics or like that sort of like practical effect.
So I think this is where I want to talk about them for my own personal preference. Where of the main Universal monsters of like later, and I'm not too versed in like old Universal monsters, but we're talking about like Frankenstein, werewolf, the Mummy, blah blah blah.
The classics, sure.
Those classics. Werewolf in its movies have always been the most like disappointing to me, and I've never really been a big werewolf.
Well, I think there's later two different styles. You've got your werewolf that looks like a big wolf on two legs with like a wolf head, and then you have more wolf man, which is kind of like the classic Universal monster, kind of what we have here. Also,
Monster Squad.
Yeah, Monster Squad's like that. The Werewolf by Night that Marvel did a year or two ago.
Yeah, and then you have your like Werewolf in London's. Like I think there's good movies like that. I just know from my own personal taste. Except for like,
do you differentiate, or do you feel the same way about the wolf-headed ones that have the big fancy chain, where like you'll see a guy's head morph into a wolf and stuff? Do you like that, or just overall you're just not that impressed by that type of monster?
I think overall, I've always liked some transformations. I like some elements here or there.
The body horror element's always cool.
There's never been there's rarely a complete movie where I'm like, yeah, let's throw on the werewolf movie.
Yeah.
Like Werewolves Within, I really liked. That's based off of the cast, right?
Sure.
This shit's fun. Your Teen Wolves, like I said, American Werewolf in London. You can't dismiss that. The Howling is fine.
If we're gonna start naming ones, Ginger Snaps, Dog Soldiers.
And you know what's so funny? I own almost everything we've said. It has nothing to do with like Ginger Snaps. No problem with it. Dog Soldiers is fucking pretty wild.
Yeah. But again, almost all of those we're leaning more into the wolf-like, less wolf man.
Wolf. So I just mean my point being is, when it works, it works. I think it doesn't. It's not as much as it wants to be. It's never a vampire. It's never fucking Frankenstein. Yeah, that's one. I'm not include. That's like saying like Twilight's a werewolf movie. Like it's part of it. It is.
Hey, you're not wrong. You aren't wrong.
That's fair.
It is. Talking about the funniest werewolf transformation because they just have a guy shirtless jumping and then CGI being
turning into like a full wolf. Yeah.
I'll never forget watching, because it was like the age still putting on like the MTV Movie Awards. I think it was the MTV Movie Awards. It might have been the Oscars, but I think it was the MTV Movie Awards. The Twilight cast came out like, here's a clip of our New Moon or whatever the second one was, because you didn't see werewolf transformations of the first one, and it teased it up, and it was that transformation scene, and me going, what the, just like, this looks fucking terrible.
It was like the person was a balloon and just popped and a werewolf came out. Like,
yeah.
You know,
they just shake it off every time.
And it was like, and then the crowd's going, but you know, and those movies are fun as hell for like So Bad a Good Factor. But no, Trick or Treat has werewolves. I just wanted to get that out there in this recording.
No, that's fair. I just really, I think the makeup effects look pretty good here, and I just liked the kind of subtleness of it. I felt like it was like I didn't feel like I was missing out on a big transformation because of the way I think it played pretty well.
You don't need the big flash because what Rick Baker is, this was not his. Yeah, he had done Werewolf.
Oh yeah, Rick Baker
prior to this.
And I want to say he did. Did he not? No, that's
American Werewolf in London.
Well,
yeah, he might have done American Werewolf in London.
That's what I want to make sure. So he did American Werewolf in London, which is the quintessential,
right.
You know,
which is the more like the big showy transformation.
Yes, but then he does. I mean, I'm just looking at his IMDb now, and he does, you know, TV show Werewolf. That's who they call for wolves, which makes sense. Fuck, he even did the Beauty and the Beast with what's his face, Hellboy, Ron Perlman.
Oh,
you know, he does Wolf. He does the Wolfman. You know, in 2010.
Underrated. I like that Wolfman movie.
If you go as of like 2017, so take it with a grain of salt. If you go to Universal Studios in Orlando and you go to the special effects little show they have, you want to get out of the sun. It's a nice, you know,
air conditioned building or something.
That is the big highlight movie they talk about.
Nice. It does have some good effects in it.
Yeah, but so Rick Baker knows what. Hot take: Rick Baker knows what he's doing, but I also like the special effects makeup, how it is subtle. And I think, to answer your question, I think this movie is making maybe I do like a more wolf man than full turning into a wolf transformation.
That's cool. Yeah, I like the Wolfman too.
He's just sexy. I just think that's sexy.
Oh, speaking of sexy, can we talk about the music they chose for the fight sequence? It's all like horny saxophone music.
That's what I'm saying. This movie is
jumping through the air, and it's like.
They wanted this to really be some type of like a love story.
Well, this is.
Well, they definitely let James Spader get a little rapey with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Not a little. He's going to full blown rape her.
But I do love how crazy they let James Spader be, and how much he likes being. You can tell that he's just fully embraced being a werewolf. He's just totally into it. Like
he's during this fight, right? James Spader's fully playing. I mean, like he's trying to rape her, but he's fully playing with her. He'd kill her at any time, but he literally says, "No, I'll fuck you to death."
Yeah.
And I did think his one line to the guard trying to drive in, being like, you don't think she's the best fuck of the decade?
Yeah. And the guy is like, back it up.
Back it up. And that's when he kills him.
That's when he runs his ass over.
Like most of these ending fights, multiple notes of, Pfeiffer, what do you do? Stay out of it. What are you doing? She tries to go in multiple times. Just get out of the way.
She runs in, she hits him with the fire extinguisher and shit.
Sprays him and he's like, oh, steam.
I do love I love, he's attacking Michelle Pfeiffer and Jack's ripping at the bars, and his shoulders are getting bigger and hairy, and he's getting more, and then he finally rips off the medallion, and that's when he can leap up over the top, and he comes down on him, and this is where we get our big jump fight. Love the big jumps. Love the way they propel themselves chest first is so great. Also, very Jason Voorhees fight style, where we're picking up a lot of barn and farming implements and using them on each other.
And every hit does that. Just lean back. Ugh.
Yeah.
But the slow mo, because you mentioned the music too. So I also think that has to do with they hired a famous composer and Ennio Marcion, right? Like famous Western, and that's I think where that comes in. It's like, why is this so jazzy?
Well, it's like I feel like he did his like horny sax music for the fight, and then Mike Nichols decided he needed to like edit the movie to match the music, so he like slowed it down to go with the kind of horny
the slow mos. It's the fight.
Some of the slow-mos I do like the slow-mos when they're like, growling and hissing at each other, and some of the like posing it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jack. He looks incredible.
I don't hate all of it. And also, this movie does my least favorite thing when the big fight, which is like grab him and throw him away from you. It's like, if you're on him, stay on him. But
then he walks away.
They're animals. They're dumb animals. They don't know any better,
Yeah. But he doesn't. He just throws him. He's like, yeah, that's good.
He does chuck him against those stone steps, which probably hurt a lot. Like, you definitely lost some ribs on that one.
And then from that, Michelle Pfeiffer, in once again a hysterical edit, just shoots him midair like 5 times.
I was like, and they never mentioned silver bullets, so it seems like normal bullets work just fine on werewolves in this.
That's what I was going to ask you. At the restraint here, they didn't do the. They didn't know, like, oh, you can't do silver. Like, when I saw the amulet, I thought, oh, is that a silver amulet? That's going to...
No, the amulet's the only kind of mystical thing, the only, like, werewolf lore thing they really do. They don't do anything with, like, silver bullets or anything like that. So or having to cut the head off or whatever it is,
But, yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer just... midair, like, I don't mean the scene of her shooting him. The editing of the actual filmmaker is, like...
He's also attacking with he's got shears. He's got like big
he's gonna take his head off.
Yeah, he's gonna take, but I love he's doing a big jump and he's got the shears over. He just looks very funny, and then he gets shot like a bunch of times.
So he dead now and he turns back into a human.
Yeah, and Jack Nicholson is like fully like feral wolf man, and you think, is he gonna, but of course he's not gonna kill Michelle Pfeiffer. He runs off into the woods, he disappears. He fully transforms, we assume.
Yeah. But there's more.
It's not quite over yet.
Michelle Pfeiffer's talking to the cops and this and that, and Richard Jenkins walks away and she goes, oh yeah, like next time don't, have some vodka with your soda or some quippy line. And he's like, how'd you say?
He does she does the sniff out, yeah.
Yeah. And then because she was bit during the fight.
No, that's what I was saying earlier. She was never bit. She got it by fucking Jack Nicholson.
I was gonna say they swap demons.
Yeah. Remember I said the mystic is like, you don't have to be bitten to turn if you have the spirit of the wolf.
And you fuck the wolf.
I think that he like through passion, they both have the spirit of the wolf in them, and then through his horniness and passion and jizz, he made her a werewolf.
They keep and then it kind of just ends on her face, right? And it keeps editing it back of the eyes until you see she's
fully... like, you're supposed to get the impression she's like running through the woods after him, kind of, and also becoming a werewolf, right?
This is my question: are we to believe he's never turning back into a human? He's full wolf now.
He's gonna probably go.
He's basically the thing that bit him at the beginning. Now he's that.
Yeah, but that was in the middle of the night. That could have just been wolf.
That was like a whole pack of wolves. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah, there's on the side of the road. There's a bunch of wolves. Yeah,
didn't notice.
That was just like a normal.
Well, also this.
And then so she's gonna become full wolf, and then she really gets the shit out of a stick. She's like pretty young and could live a full, nice life of not living in the woods.
Well, I think he'll still turn back into a human once the full moon is over. I think they're just full wolf for the full moon. Like
that's cool then.
They've transcended into their like full werewolf form. Maybe they'll. I don't know. I mean, I think they can still come back. But this has always bugged me. They do the shot. They hang on her eyes, and her eyes do that glowing yellow as they fade out. But they could have done a second take, because I would have told Michelle Pfeiffer to open that one eye a little bit more, because she's always got, it's one of them's like half closed, and as it slowly fades away and all you can see are the eyes, it's really noticeable. Like she's got a real lazy eye thing going. It's very distracting for me. It always has been. I'm sitting there watching her beautiful eyes, and then all I can, and then as they start to find, I'm like, oh wait, why is her one eye like half closed? That's weird. I can't help it. It always gets me.
Now you just have a thing about that every time you see Michelle.
That's funny. I never noticed that.
Yeah, it's just something about it. Maybe it's just that one shot, and she's not, but she has. Maybe it's because she was doing like sexy eyes, and one's a little half closed, maybe. But like, it just, it always threw me. I can't help it. I was always obsessed with it. I was like, "What? Open your other eye!"
Show me it.
Yeah. But so for me, for first watch, really never not being on my radar except for when you've mentioned it. Truly, I mean, even though this conversation was a ton of fun, I thought it was fine. I thought the movie had a lot. I thought the movies. I thought there was cooler things in the movie than the movie itself.
It's a very 90s like adult drama that also happens to be a werewolf movie. You know what I mean?
And I wish we still got those today. Like I wish we still just got like, hey, there's $70 million movies, still a palatable like big feature drama, but weird. Today it's like you get one or the other. It's gonna be weird, but it's not a big movie. It's like $5 million, and you get one star who's trying something. Like,
it's like this honestly could have been just a movie about the publishing show. Like there's a version of this movie that's like an adult drama that has all the philandering and it has the younger woman and she's the boss's daughter and it has all that and just doesn't have any werewolf shit in it. And that's just like a Michael Douglas movie from the 90s. You know what I mean? Like
Michael Douglas would have been pretty good in this too.
He probably would have actually. Yeah, he would have.
Oh, he definitely was a choice at some point.
Had to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, this is one of those like I can't divorce my history from the way I feel about this movie. But like, is it like if somebody was like, "What is the best werewolf movie?" Would I recommend this one? No, probably not. I would probably it would probably be on my list though. I'd be like, here's a list of werewolf movies I really have loved, and like especially also as like in the vein of a Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or Bram Stoker's Dracula, as like a modern update of the classic Universal monster and kind of paying tribute to that, and almost having the kind of like pacing and tone a little bit more of a movie of that era. You know what I mean?
They definitely. I mean, you nailed it. They fit in a nice little trilogy together for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I love Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I was more into Interview with the Vampire as a kid. I probably have watched Bram Stoker more often than I've gone back to Interview, although I still think Interview with the Vampire is actually an excellent movie. And I've heard the show's pretty good, but I haven't watched any of it.
Yeah, I've heard seeing things about it.
I've heard that as well. I also think that movie is fucking good. Same with Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, that was a great time. People rag on the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but fucking Kenneth Branagh directed, Robert De Niro starring as the monster. It's rad. That movie goes so hard.
I gotta watch that one.
I need to see it again, just because I saw it in like early high school, and I couldn't get over like De Niro, and like I was like, this is fucking goofy, but I don't think that's a fair criticism of it. I'm probably 15 watching this. Let's be like,
that's tough.
Yeah, going on.
No, I think, like I said, that one that's probably the one that's the most maligned of any of these, as far as like, because of that. I think, but I'm like, come on, man, Kenneth Branagh directing in the night, like the scene, the like steampunk ass birthing scene of Frankenstein is so great. Like, anyway, this isn't about that movie. We'll probably do one about that movie someday, though.
There you go.
Joe just said he wants to rewatch it. Why wouldn't we do an episode on it?
Let's do it. Let's do it, buddy. Let's do it. I'm always game.
Every movie that I love, I'm gonna make Joe watch it.
I'm always game. I'm always game.
No, Joe never shoots me down.
There you go.
But anyway,
this is a blast. I was glad it was good to have you back, TJ.
Thank you for coming back on, TJ.
Of course. And thank you guys for having me. I always love talking with y'all. Any chance I can, whoever's needed, let me know. I'm in for anything, and I'll try to find something from like, I want to do like an 80s like horror movie from when I was like a kid with you guys.
Oh,
Something
yeah,
real
absolutely.
goofy and out there. But definitely want to come back. You guys ever need me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We would, you know what? I'd be happy to waste a good movie on you, TJ.
Oh, thank you, man.
He said something. Wait. He said something from the 80s in his childhood, and you're saying a good movie to waste on it.
Will be good.
That was that.
You never know. You never know. He could buck the trend at any moment.
No, because I've already talked about Child's Play on this. We've agreed to never cover any of the others one, like Child's Play 2 or anything, because we've talked to it to death. I don't know what else TJ is going to pull out of, what rabbit he's going to pull out of that description.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll get you. Don't worry.
We're talking good, not like Ghoulies 2.
Ghoulies go to college, baby.
We would do it, and if you picked it, I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
I would do it and love it and enjoy it, but like wasting a pick, I'm gonna be like, oh, we can't do The Exorcist, maybe, or like Silence of the Lambs, or blah blah blah. Until this we got to really save
Red Dragon.
You could do Red Dragon. I
fucking love Red Dragon.
I like Red Dragon too.
Red Dragon's dope.
There actually hasn't been a bad adaptation of Thomas Harris novels.
Yeah.
They've really done well.
Yeah, you not wrong, girl. All right, I will. I'm so tempted. I'm not going to buy this Wolf Blu-ray, but I'm not going to because I don't like it that much. So
yeah, but we'll see. You put it on your wish list. You see what happens.
Well, it has the little foreign import sticker, so I don't know the region it's being. You know that truck. You know that.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful.
But anyway, this was a great time.
Absolutely.
As always, you know where to find all of us. Stay frightful, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Flyover State of Fear.